Today we're going to be adding and subtracting fractions with like and unlike denominators. First we're going to start out with an example 1. We'll start out with 2 over 4 plus 1 over 4. Now the first thing you really want to look at here would be your denominators. And your denominator is always going to be your bottom number. In this case, we have a 4 and a 4. So we have what we call like denominators. So when you have like denominators, all you want to do is move your denominator straight across. Keep it the same. It does not change. Then you want to look at your numerators. That's going to be your top number in a fraction. In this case, it's going to be a simple addition problem. 2 plus 1, which is equal to 3. Now, we know that 3 is a prime number and it cannot be reduced any, so this fraction is already in its lowest terms. It cannot be reduced any further. So now we know that 2 over 4 plus 1 over 4 is equal to 3/4, and there is your answer. Now let's try another example. Example number 2. Three over 8 plus 2 over 8. Once again, we want to take and look at our denominators, and we've determined that they are indeed alike. Both are 8. So we know automatically that we can take and move that denominator 8 straight across. It does not change. Then we look at our numerator, which is again our top numbers, and it's a simple addition problem. We're going to add 3 plus 2 and we get 5. Now we also know that 5 is a prime number. It cannot be divided down any more than what it already is. So we know that 3/8 plus 2/8 is equal to 5 over 8. Now that we know how to add fractions with like denominators, let's take a look at another example. We're going to call this example 3. In this case, we're going to say 3 over 4 minus 1 over 4. Once again, just like in addition, we want to take a look at our denominators. Here we can see that one denominator is 4 and the other denominator is also 4. So that tells us that all we have to do is to move that denominator straight across and put it in our answer. Then we have to look at our numerator, which again is our top number in a fraction, and we're going to say 3 minus 1 is 2. Now we have to take a look at our answer. We know by our divisibility rules that 2 and 4 are both divisible by the number 2. So here we're going to take and we're going to divide our numerator by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is equal to a 1. And then we're going to do the same thing to our denominator. We're going to take and divide 4 by 2. Because what you do to your numerator, you must also do to your denominator. In this case, we're going to say 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2. So we have determined that 3/4 minus 1/4 is equal to 1/2. Okay, let's take a look at one more example with like denominators. We're going to call this example number 4. Here we're going to have 6 over 7 minus 2 over 7. Once again, we must first take a look at our denominators and determine if they are alike. In this case, we have a 7, and in this case, we have a 7. So they are indeed alike. So we can move that straight across and put the denominator of 7 in our answer. Then we're going to look at our numerator. Just as I've said in the past, it's always going to be your top number in a fraction. And you're going to say 6 minus 2, which is going to be equal to 4. Now, we know that 7 is a prime number, so it cannot be reduced any further. So this answer is okay like it is. So we know now that 6 over 7 minus 2 over 7 is equal to 4 sevenths. Okay, now we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to learn how to add numbers with unlike denominators. We'll call this first problem example number 1. And our problem is 1 over 4 plus 1/2. Now, a quick check of our denominators tell us that this is a 4 and this is a 2. That means they are unlike. So we have to first determine the lowest common multiple. So what we want to do is we'll come over on our scratch paper and we want to find the multiples of 2. Now that we have determined that our denominators are unlike, we have to figure out what would be our lowest common multiple of both 4 and 2. So we'll go to our scratch paper and we'll write down 4 and 2, and we want to put the multiples of both of these numbers. In this case, 2 would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and so on. 4 would be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on. But we can clearly see that now the 4 would be our LCM, or our lowest common multiple. Since 4 is going to be our lowest common multiple, we're just going to take and leave 1/4 alone because it is fine. But we have to take and figure out how to make 1/2 into something over 4. So what we do is we ask what number times 2 would equal 4. And we know that we can say 2 times 2, and that will equal 4. What we do to our denominator, we then must do to our numerator. So in this case, we're going to multiply 1 times that same 2, and we get our new numerator of 2. Now, if you take a look at your denominators now, they are both the same, and you're right back to what we were just talking about a few minutes ago, adding fractions with like denominators. In this case, we're going to move our 4 straight across. We're going to come back to our numerator. We're going to say 1 plus 2, which is 3, so that now we have determined that 1/4 plus 2/4 is equal to 3/4, and we can write that up into our original problem, and we have our answer of 3/4. Now let's go ahead and do another example with unlike denominators. We'll call this example 2. Example number 2. In this case, we're going to take 2/3 and add that to 1/5. Once again, first thing you want to do is look at these denominators. We can see we have a 3 here and a 5 over here. So you want to go to some scratch paper and you want to write out your multiples of both 3 and 5 so you can determine your LCM, or your lowest common multiple. In this case, we'll write 3, and down here we're going to write 5. We're going to say multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and so on. And then we can do 5. We can say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on. Now we have easily determined, if you compare numbers, where do you see a number that's the same in both? The lowest would be 15. So we know that we must turn both of our denominators over here into 15. So we'll write something over 15 plus something over 15. Now, what must you multiply times 3 to get 15? Well, you multiply 3 times 5 to get 15. You have your new denominator. But whatever you've done to your denominator, you must also do to your numerator. So here you're going to say 2 times 5. And in this case, your new numerator would be 10. Same thing with your other fraction. What number times 5 is equal to 15? Well, we know that 5 times 3 is 15. What you've done to your denominator, you must now also do up to your numerator. 1 times 3 would be 3. Now we have like denominators. Both are now 15. Now that we've set that up, we can come across and we're right back to adding like denominators. So we'll put our 15 and we must look at our numerators and just add 10 plus 3 and we get 13. Now we know that 13 is a prime number, so it cannot be reduced any further. So we'll come back to our original problem and say 2/3 plus 1/5 is equal to 13/15. And that is our answer. Okay, so far we've learned how to add fractions with like denominators. We've also learned how to subtract fractions with like denominators. Just a few minutes ago we learned how to add fractions that have unlike denominators. Now we're going to learn how to subtract fractions with unlike denominators. So we'll call this example number 3. So we'll have 3/4 minus 1/3. Once again, the first thing you want to do is you want to take a look at these denominators, and you can see we have a 4 and we have a 3. This tells me that we must find the lowest common multiple of both 4 and 3. So we'll go to our scratch paper and we'll write down 3, and then we'll do 4, and we'll determine its multiples. Multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and they go on from there. Let's drop down and do the 4. We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and they go on. Now we can compare these two groups of numbers and clearly see that the 12 is the lowest common multiple that is the same in both for both numbers. So we're going to take and make our denominator 12 something over 12 minus something over 12. Just as we did in the addition, we have to figure out what did we multiply times 4 to get 12, and we said 4 times 3 is 12. And what you do to your denominator, you must now also do to your numerator. So we'll multiply 3 times 3 and we'll get 9. And we're going to go to our other fraction. We're going to do the same thing. What number times 3 equals 12? Well, we know that 3 times 4 is equal to 12. Once again, what you've done to your denominator, you must do to your numerator. So we'll go to the top and we'll say 1 times 4, and that is equal to 4. Now we have like denominators. Both are 12, so we're in good shape there. And we've already learned that once you have like denominators, you can bring that denominator straight on across, which is 12, and then you have a simple subtraction problem. 9 minus 4, which is equal to 5. And we know that 5 is indeed a prime number, so it cannot be reduced any further. So we can write back in our answer, 3/4 minus 1/3 is equal to 5/12. And there is our answer. Let's try one more. We'll call it example 4. In this case, we're going to take 5 sixth, and we're going to subtract 1/4. Once again, first thing we must do is look at these denominators, that bottom number, and determine that this one is 6 and this one is 4, which tells me we have to take and locate or find out what the LCM, our lowest common multiple of 6 and 4 is. So we'll take and come to our scratch paper and write 4, and then we'll write 6, and we're going to put out beside these numbers the multiples of those numbers. So 4 is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and it continues. 6 is 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and it continues. We can quickly compare both groups of numbers and see that 12 is our least common multiple for both numbers. So we'll go back over into our problem, and we want to change these denominators into 12. So we'll go 12, something over 12, minus something over 12 equals something. So what we did, we asked ourselves, what number multiplied times 6 would equal 12? And we said 6 times 2 equals 12. What we've done to the denominator, we must in turn do to the numerator. So 5 times 2, we determine that to be 10. We go to our other fraction. What number multiplied times 4 equals 12? We said 4 times 3 is equal to 12. Now what we've done to that denominator, we've got to do to our numerator. So 1 times 3 equals 3. Now we have like denominators, once we compare them, we have the 12 like we had determined earlier. So we know we can move it straight across, leave 12 alone, and we can say 10 minus 3 leaves me 7. We know that 7 is a prime number, therefore this fraction cannot be reduced any further. So we can go back to our original problem. It said 5/6 minus 1/4 is equal to 7/12. And there is our answer.